All right. We are officially recording, so I'll put this up for anyone who missed it on the Zoom room. This is Brian McCabe. I know my Zoom room title says Professor One there. I'm not sure why. I got to get that fixed. But my name's pronounced McCabe. My last name MC, capital CABE. And my first name's Brian. You can feel free to call me Brian, or some students like to don't feel comfortable using just like a first name for a professor. So feel free to call me Dr. Brian or Dr. McCabe. Whatever you feel most comfortable with is okay with me. I'm going to go ahead and pray for us, and then we'll get started with our time. God, thank you for this group of leaders from around the world who have joined in this conversation to work through some of the most complex challenges that are facing human beings who are living on this planet that is urbanizing so much and experiencing so many struggles and challenges. God, I pray that you would work through this time together today and over these weeks to come to empower these leaders to accomplish amazing things for your kingdom and your glory. And God, we just praise you and thank you for this time together today. We give it all to you. And God, we just give you the rest of this time. Amen.
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 All right. Just to start off here, I am thrilled to see all of your faces. I'm thankful for your joining this time together. I think we'll eventually. We had one student drop, but we just picked up another one today that I heard about this morning. So we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We'll have 7 students, including myself. Will be 8. That's actually a really great size group to go through this course with. I think we'll be able to get a lot done, and we'll be able to interact with each other a lot more. Just so you know what to expect from our time today. Usually I carve out 2 hours for the Zoom room. If we end earlier than that, then great. I'm not going to force it all just to go to the entire 2 hours. But I oftentimes we will go through the full 2 hours if we get a lot of questions and comments, and that's a good thing. But just as you're scheduling your time, and for these Zoom rooms, I'll post in the Populi classroom the different Zoom room dates that we'll have. But we'll go over those dates that I have scheduled a little bit later, so that you can know when to expect this time. As I was saying to Marcel earlier, it's a little bit challenging trying to schedule these so that people don't have to get up in the middle of the night. So Summer, I know you're sacrificing by getting up early, or maybe you're a morning person and and this is fine for you. And for example, you're I think it's late in the evening for you there. But we do have a lot of students from Africa as well who are at BGU, who this time if I scheduled for the evening my time, it ends up being the middle of the night at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning for them. So thanks for being flexible with this time, and we'll try to do our best to keep this time consistent. If you ever miss a Zoom room, I'll record it and I'll put it up in the site. I want everybody to try to make it if you can, but if you do miss for whatever reason, you can listen to the recording and then contact me with some feedback and interaction about the course. We're going to go through the syllabus, which is pretty much our only main goal for today, just to make sure everybody's really clear and on the same page about this learning journey that we're starting together. Some of it, hopefully you've already read through all the syllabus, so if you have any questions, this will be your time right up front to ask me what the questions are that you have or anything that's not clear to you. My goal, if you know BGU, we're really more of like a facilitative learning model. So it's not just going to be me talking at you for the next 9 weeks. It's going to be us working together as a group, in our groups, one-on-one with me, whatever we need to do to kind of to go through this to facilitate the learning so that it's a great experience for you. Before I jump into the syllabus, though, I wanted to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself. I know already in the Zoom room we have the Getting to Know You section, and a lot of you did a great job listing the information about yourselves in there. But just for this time right now, if you could just say hello to the group and where you're calling in from or where you're Zooming in from, and just a little bit about what you're most passionate about, as we head into this journey together. So who wants to go first?
I can go first. No trouble.
Okay, thanks, Marcel.
First of all, let me say my name is Marcel Raymond Hudson. I am Chief Education Officer in the Ministry of Education. Right now, I'm in the room from Georgetown. That's where my home. I've actually put some time away from work to be a part of this session because I consider it to be very important. I'm also a reverend with the Assemblies of God Church, um, and I serve as an evangelist in the ministry. My passion is soul winning, and I'm particularly interested in seeing our children. I believe there's a direct correlation between um, education and poverty, and basically, my desire is to see our children, particularly at the school system, our children being able to read, to write, being literate. I think fundamentally that has been a problem in our country. And even as I did the research, I recognize this matter is of concern all over the world. So my passion is to ensure that our children become literate, because I believe being literate opens the door for them to enjoy a better life by way of enjoying social mobility through education. So that's my calling. And of course, if I don't preach, I believe I will die. So I'm an evangelist. We have what we call a gospel truck. From time to time, I just drive into a community. We let down the cover for the truck, and we preach the word of God. See lives saved, see lives saved, and people healed. I've been married for 23 years now, and I have one son so far.
Thank you for sharing, Marcel. That's really great. A good introduction. Anyone have any questions or comments for Marcel? All right. Well, thank you. That's really interesting, and I love the position that you're in as a chief education officer for the country, but also that you take the truck into the streets of different neighborhoods. That's really great. So, looking forward to hearing more about your perspectives. And you were also mentioning to me before the Zoom room officially started that you just got back from Fresno, California, taking one of the Baki Urban Immersion courses. Can you just share a little bit about how that went for you?
It was very inspirational for me to see the transformation that took place in Fresno. The whole idea of transformational leadership, I think it was exemplified in Fresno. A number of statements, comments made in that program really touched me. For example, when people stop reflecting, innovating, to see that the whole concept, the whole notion of collaboration and cooperation, what it could actually do in terms of changing the status quo. And so I was particularly impressed with how people could actually make significant changes, even as they move together with one mindset and one agenda. So I think Fresno was really inspirational for me. I come back and tried some of the things that we learned in Fresno, and I believe we are in a good place in terms of creating partnerships with respect to projects that would lead to development of community and so on. I think the book When Helping Hurts, because I did some work on that, and I think that has been so eye-opening for me in terms of poverty and how the complexity of poverty and the areas that should be addressed. Like I think Finkert and Corbett talked about brokenness in terms of with oneself, with community, with the environment, and with God. And that's why projects, don't really help when you just give people money, but the brokenness that they experience, that kind of brokenness needs to be fixed if you're going to alleviate poverty, rather than doling out money or giving handouts, so to speak. So it was very, very interesting interesting to me, and my perspective on poverty is quite different as I've been exposed to that immersion in Fresno. Yeah.
All right, excellent. Thank you for sharing. And that book, When Helping Hurts, is one of our main books for this course. So I'm really glad that you recommended it, and we'll be working through a lot of those concepts as we make our way through our time together. So thanks, Marcel. And just a suggestion, I should have said this from the top, but now we were getting a little bit of static from you because your microphone was on. So for future Zoom rooms when we're together, if you're not talking, go ahead and just mute your mic. And then sometimes you might forget when you start talking that you're muted, but that's just for everybody. Just a suggestion to help with a little less background noise for our time together. But who wants to go next, Summer or No? Who would like to go? All right, Summer.
I'll go.
All right.
Hi, all. My name is Summer Fuller, and I am from San Diego, California, native San Diegan, born and raised. Lived in a few different cities across the United States, but I've been back here in San Diego for probably the last 3 years now. I currently work in ministry as an executive pastor with my father. And I do a lot of community work, particularly with community colleges and school districts, and I work with adjudicated youth as well. I would say my passion sort of really stems around working with marginalized communities, particularly Black and Brown folks here in the city and I guess just in the nation. I would also say that, so my church context that I grew up in, Baptist and denomination, and, to be very honest, I grew up in a context that was very, very deeply rooted in patriarchy. And so that said, I think when my father and my family and all that realized that I was called to ministry, it was sort of this eye-opening, I guess, moment for a lot of people in my circle to kind of move away from these traditions. Because I grew up in a denomination that didn't believe in women in ministry. And so I remember, like, when I guess it was realized that I was called at maybe like a teenager, early 20s, like in college, that like a lot of things changed. It was an eye-opening, sort of thing for my dad. So our church kind of moved away from some of the patriarchal things that our denomination kind of, centered around. And as a result, there were a lot of people who stopped kind of fellowshipping and dealing with our church, which is very interesting. And so I would say that over the last several years, I think I've been sort of really interested in, first of all, knowing God for myself, and really, because I grew up in church and I've had a relationship, but really understanding who God is and who God is not, because I do believe that just in my own personal context, I grew up in a context where I think we were so busy telling people what God is not that we missed opportunities to tell people who and what God is. And as a result, I think we've missed a lot of people. People have died on the vine, if you will. And so I do have a passion for working with, of course, millennial communities, as I said, marginalized folks, because I think to some degree, and just even with what's going on in the nation, I think to some degree we've turned people off from, really getting to know, and I'm talking about in the United States, really getting to know who God is and what God is about because of all these divisions, these denominational divisions, these conservative versus liberal views where we kind of throw God in it. And, so yeah, I'm just very passionate about working with communities who are marginalized, really showing them God, because I believe that we are most like God. We show God when, as Isaiah talks about on more than one occasion, when we are advocating for the oppressed, when we are caring for the orphan, when we are caring for the widow. And I mean, what more can we do, as the Bible says, than to sort of seek justice and love our God? So I would definitely say that. I think as a woman of color who has, spent many years at institutions of higher learning, et cetera, and been in the minority in terms of people in those institutions, as well as in my, previous professions, I think I've experienced on sort of grade levels, microaggressions, macroaggressions, so I know what it feels like. Conversely, I also know that I enjoy privileges that other people do not in these United States and around the globe. So I'm consistently trying to check myself and my own biases. So yeah, that's and I think I said probably most of that in some way or another in my introduction, but that's who I am. I'm looking forward to just kind of learning with my friends and partners globally as well as, nationally, and looking forward to the experience.
That's great. Any questions or comments for Summer? Well, Summer, thank you for that awesome introduction. I really connected with you about that. It's great to hear some more about your background and your history. And, it's funny. I guess I graduated from BGU's Doctorate of Ministry program in 2012. And then a few years later, this must have been about 4 years ago, they asked me to teach this course for them, the Poverty, Diversity, and Social Justice course. And I looked through the syllabus and I saw the poverty part and the social justice part. But I'm also a white male pastor in the United States who enjoys a lot of privilege. So I was looking at that diversity piece like, oh man, like how are we, I'm passionate about racial reconciliation, but what really am I going to be able to contribute to the discussion, in terms of leading people in that area. And so the BGU team just said, remember BGU's facilitative learning model. It's not you being the expert who's telling everybody what to do. It's all the students and the professors learning together. And there are so many great resources that are out there. I'm excited. So I obviously accepted to teach the course because I do believe that poverty and social justice, especially in the U.S. context, are directly related to a lot of race relations and a lot of the history there and class issues that we have. So we can't not talk about it. And I think Brenda Salter McNeil's book is a great resource for us to work through. We're going to be working through that in the third week of the course. So all that to say, thank you for sharing that. And I'm excited to learn from you and hear from your perspective. And hopefully this will be a safe place for us to be able to work through a lot of those things that you're most passionate about. So welcome. All right. Na, would you like to share some about yourself?
Yeah. My name is No Tong, and I'm from northern part of Myanmar. If you do not know where my country is, it's between China and India. Currently, I'm working in a Bible college as a teaching staff. The reason I'm interested in this course is especially because I'm from a country, so to say, one of the poorest country in the world. And I'm not just a citizen of a poor country. Even in that country, I'm from a minority group. For almost about 50 years, my people have been fighting with the majority Burmese people. And so the reason I'm interested in this course is quite obvious. I want to know more about the reasons why my people and my country is poor. And every day in the newspapers and the news, I'm seeing, so to say, injustice or many forms of racial and social discriminations, especially because we are the minority. So as a minister and as a preacher, I believe it is my responsibility to talk about poverty. Of course, before I have been in ministry now for almost 10 years. Before I thought preaching the word of God is only about heavens and about salvation. But when I get in touch with my church members, many of them are very poor and they are suffering from extreme poverty. And so because of these circumstances, I believe I have responsibility not just to preach about the word of God, but I have my duties to help my people solve the problem of poverty and to speak about the social injustice taking place every day in our surrounding. And I hope by learning this course, I'll be able to help my people solve a problem of poverty and about this injustice in my society. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing. And so it's Na Tong. That's what I should call you? Okay. Sorry about that. I was just going by the first part there. So I'll get that right from now on. Anybody have any questions or comments for Na Tong? All right. Well, Na Tong, I'm thrilled that you're a part of this course, and it'll be my prayer that in your context, it's just such a challenging context, that this will really help you to understand. As I said earlier, there are so many complex issues that we're facing in our world, and your country and context is kind of one of the main hotspots on the globe right now for that. And so you're going to hopefully learn some things from us, but we're going to learn a lot from you and your perspectives as we go through this. One of the things that I have in the syllabus, I actually grew up in a church that had a similar approach to the preaching ministry, which was to kind of talk about people's spiritual condition. And there wasn't much talk about what happened is your neighborhood a better place because your church is there? Or, what about these complex issues of poverty that are happening right outside your doorstep? And so I didn't really have a framework for how to engage until I went through BGU's Doctor of Ministry program. And one of the frameworks that really helped me in my context where I'm ministering now is liberation theology. And we'll be introducing some of those perspectives. Also, the integral mission movement, which has come out of Latin America, has been extremely helpful. For me, theologians like Ruth Padilla de Borst, we're going to have a lecture from her in our course. And so I'm really hoping that there will be a lot of great resources for you that will help to empower you in your context. So glad you're a part of our journey together.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Well, one thing I'm going to do here, just to briefly introduce myself, and then I promise we're going to dive into the syllabus and answer any questions you might have there. I'm going to first share my screen. All right, and go slideshow. All right, so hopefully everybody can see the screen there. If not, just let me know. Just a little bit about myself. I know you read about some in my in the syllabus, and so I'm not going to go on too long about myself, but I'm a pastor in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I've planted 2 churches over the past 6 years. 6 years ago, I planted a church in a neighborhood called East Liberty, which is an urban neighborhood. It's very diverse. It's in the east end of the city of Pittsburgh. About a year and a half ago, I handed that church off to another pastor, and I'm currently working with a group called the House of Manna to plant a church in the neighborhood called Homewood, which is the neighborhood where I live. Homewood is a primarily African-American neighborhood. It's also a very diverse neighborhood. And I'm a part of a team, like I said, that's a partner church of Northway Christian Community, which is the location where I planted the other church 6 years ago. Again, more details to come as I share some more stories, but just a little bit about my context. And I lead a youth mentoring initiative in Homewood called LAMP, which stands for Learning and Mentoring Partnership. And that's been 12 years that I've been involved with that work. It's an invitation from our public school district for churches to come into their schools to mentor kids and to mentor kids in the neighborhoods where those kids go to school. And I'll be sharing that's my passion. One of my main passions besides church planting in urban environments is also community development and youth mentoring and working with at-risk youth or high-risk youth. So I think this common calling of working with young people who are growing up in urban neighborhoods that are experiencing poverty is going to be a big theme for all of us as we go through this. It sounds like it's a passion for a lot of us. As I mentioned, there's a little bit about church planning there, and I'll show you a picture of my family in just a little bit. TULI in USS stands for Transformational Urban Leadership Institute. I founded that a couple years ago here in Pittsburgh. I do urban immersion for young people. I mean, not just young people, but lots of people in Pittsburgh to make some progress in the fields of racial reconciliation and urban immersion, to kind of take on some of the toughest challenges that are facing our city here in Pittsburgh. And then I also lead groups from Pittsburgh out to cities around the world with friends that I have that can teach people, kind of like Baki does with their urban immersion courses, except it's not for credit. So we'll just go and do some trips for some cross-cultural experience and to see what God's doing around the world. And then USS stands for Urban Shalom Society. Through that organization, I helped to found that last year. It's a group of global Christians that are engaging with the United Nations to take on some of the toughest challenges that are facing people living in cities. So we're working with the United Nations Habitat organization, which is their focus on how to develop good policies that work with cities around the world. And we organize faith leaders to interact with the United Nations, and we hold special events called Urban Shalom Forums around the world. We also publish a journal called New Urban World Journal. We publish books. We just released a book last year called Urban Shalom and the Cities We Need. I had to look at it up there in the corner of my office here. And we also published a podcast. So I shared that a little bit just to say that there are some other resources I might incorporate into the course from that group. And if you have a project at the end of the course that is really good, I would love to talk to you about publishing that maybe in a journal or as a chapter in one of our books or something like that. So no pressure on you, but be thinking about that if you want to get that out. The New Urban World Journal goes around to urban scholars and practitioners around the world who are faith leaders to be able to read what God is doing in hard places. So excited about that work. This is a picture of my family. We're visiting California. This isn't Southern California, sadly, down with the nice weather in San Diego. But this is my wife, Julie, there in the middle, and then my daughters. They're currently 14 and 12. Kira's on the right and Sierra's on the left. We lived in Central California near Fresno for 6 years when I was in my 20s, and we love California. We used to go to the coast all the time. So this is us visiting some friends at the coast in Northern California a few years ago. And this is a picture of the LAMP mentoring program I was telling you about. We have a whole bunch of kids. This is us on one of our field trips that we did. My dad is on the left there. He's one of the first mentors that I recruited to come into the program. And since then, over the past 12 years, our church alone at Northway Christian Community has had more than 500 mentors that we've matched up with kids in Pittsburgh Public Schools in the Homewood neighborhood of Pittsburgh. And it's been awesome to see. Also, there's been probably at least 12 to 15 other churches in the Pittsburgh area who have gotten involved in the mentoring program. This is a picture of House of Manna. You can see our building. We're actually still building it out, but it was a building that the shell of it was built, and then there was some gun violence that happened right outside the building that was being built. It was going to be a Rite Aid or a Family Dollar or something like that. And the organization, the business pulled out of the neighborhood and thought it was too risky to open their business there. And so that was an opportunity for us to kind of get into a space for really cheap, and we're still building it out. This is one of our community meals that we offer. We'll have different entertainment. We'll have a meal usually when we gather together. And it's a church where anybody is welcome to come. We have people who come off of the streets that are struggling with addictions and gang members and all kinds of different people. We also have business people that come and police officers and community leaders. It's a really great place just to get to know each other and to work towards reconciliation and things like that. So I preach there about once a month, and we have a preaching team and a leadership team that's helping to get things going there. And then here's a picture of me in Singapore in November. That's me all the way on the left-hand side there. And this was one of the events. This was a historic event, the first gathering of Christian leaders to interact with the United Nations. This was actually an event that was sponsored by the United Nations called an Urban Thinkers Campus. And these are all Christian leaders from around the world who gathered together to take on some of these tough challenges that we're facing as human beings, and to determine what the church has to say about a lot of these issues. Again, more about that, but just some of the advocacy work that I'm involved in. So we already shared a little bit about yourselves, and you introduced yourself. We're going to go through the course syllabus here in just a moment, and then we'll talk a little bit about some of the grading rubrics, just so you're aware. I won't bore you by going through every detail of the rubrics, but just want to make sure that you know about those and where they are, so you know what to expect. And then here's that slide with some of the Zoom room times I was telling you about earlier. It's kind of like every other week. So we're week 1, week 2, week 4, week 6, week 8, and week 9. And again, I'll post these in the Zoom room in Populi so that you can see these as well. And my presentation will be up there for you to look at these times, so you don't have to write them down right now. But again, the time is really hard to get together with the Zoom room. So hopefully we'll capture everybody and as many people as we can for each time that we have a Zoom room. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here just so we can work through the syllabus together. If you have a copy of the syllabus that you downloaded or printed, now would be a great time to take a look at it. You can also go into the info page of our class, and you can download it right there or look at it in Populi while we're going through it. So are there any, I'm going to pause periodically to see if anyone has any questions or comments. Does anyone have any questions or comments before we start working our way through the syllabus? Okay, great. This group's awesome. You're like, we're trying to get through this. So no, this is good. I admit the first Zoom room isn't the most fun because we have to go through the syllabus, but the other ones will have some lectures and more dialogue with each other. But we do need to make sure that we're all on the same page. For the course number, just a note that there are some people who are taking this course as Poverty, Diversity, and Social Justice. And we may have some students that are taking this course as Relief, Development, and Advocacy. So it just depends on which program you're in. BGU does that often, where they'll bring master's and doctoral students together, or people from different doctoral programs, in order to be able to learn from each other, which is actually a really cool thing. So there might be, an MBA student in with a DTL student, and there's a lot of learning that happens between the different perspectives. So I just didn't want there to be any confusion about that. The course description for our class, I'm just going to read through that. Again, I'm not going to read word for word through the entire syllabus, but I'm just going to highlight some things. But we will read through the course description. This course addresses issues that are at the heart of crises being experienced by every global city. Starting with the biblical framework, this course examines current global issues of poverty, diversity, the environment, and social justice. The course includes sections that discuss recent changes in the fields of relief, development, and advocacy, as well as current debates surrounding the proper role and response of the Christian leader to liberation theologies, environmental policies, and political involvement. This course will bring the elements of the urban center to the classroom in order to expose the students to poverty and poverty alleviation efforts on the front lines. So stating the obvious here, a lot of Christians in general, we make up about 1/3 of the world's population. For whatever reason, a lot of Christians are kind of intimidated by cities, especially the messy parts of cities where poverty pockets are located and broken systems. And a lot of that probably stems out of theology that is not really a full holistic theology. But for whatever reason, a lot of Christians really struggle with how to engage with these complex issues. And so it's my goal with these learnings that we'll be working through together for us to be confident, empowered, equipped to lead others to engage with any of these broken systems that we encounter in cities, and to be catalysts for change in your context. So that's kind of the goal of where we're trying to get to. The online participation in e-learning, a lot of that is self-explanatory, but it should take you 4 to 8 hours per week. With your posts that you make to your classmates, I would just emphasize here that, look at the due dates. So I want you to try to get your posts in on the due dates, and then respond to your classmates by the due dates if you can at all possibly do that. And what I'm looking for is quality of responses. So, as we're starting off here in the course and you're just getting to know each other, there's going to be a lot of like, oh, hey, great post. I totally agree with you. Good to learn with you, that type of thing. So that's fine. Everybody's being really nice, on the front end. But what I'm really looking for as we move through the course is critical thinking from you. And if you feel like you have something to share, each of you has a prophetic voice. So whether it's a response to me and something that I post, or a response to another classmate, I'm really looking for some deeper levels of thinking. Feel free to use quotations from the authors of our readings as we go through, or quotes from lectures or different other books that you know about that you want to try to use to back up your comments that you make online. So again, a lot of this is master's or doctoral level interaction. And so, hi, Margot.
Hi. Sorry, I got into the office and missed.
That's okay. No, we understand. I'm actually going to hit pause for a minute so that you can introduce yourself to our group. We have Marcel and Natong and Summer who are on the line here. Can you take a few minutes just to say hi and talk a little bit about some of the things that you're most passionate about?
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Great. Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. So good to see. I see Marcel and Summer and our professor. I apologize for being late this morning. I got into the office. Yesterday was a holiday in our country. It's called Majority Rule Day. And so we had a whole day off, and it rained, like they say in the Bahamas, cats and dog all day. And so what isn't clean outside now, it just can't get clean. So, but I thank God for being here in this class. It's already all for me on a great note. I'm learning so much already about this, and I believe it will definitely be something that's going to help me with the calling that God has on my life. The Bahamas has done well, pretty much progressively, but in the past decade to 12 years, things have shifted in the wrong direction. And I believe I was born for this time to bring transformation. And so I'm looking forward to this class further equipping me for the mission.
That's excellent. And I enjoyed reading what you wrote in the getting to know you context section in Populi, and your passion for your country and for your calling. Any questions for Margot from anyone else in the group, or comments? All right. Well, Margot, I was sharing earlier, so it says Professor 1 up there, but my name is pronounced Brian McCabe. MCC is my last name. And I share with everybody, you can call me Brian or Dr. McCabe, whatever you feel most comfortable with in your context. So I'm even okay with nicknames if everybody in the class comes up with one for me. So, yeah, we are, we heard introductions from everybody else, so I will be recording this and then posting it online. So if you do want to get the chance to go back through and catch the first part of the course, you'll be able to.
Thank you.
So, but we just started going through the course syllabus, actually. So if you have that available, you can pull that up on your computer. And I suggested with everyone else, you probably already know this, but while you're not talking in the Zoom room, if you could mute yourself so that there's not background static. Again, I just mentioned that to everybody. But okay, so we're talking about online participation. So I was just suggesting that when you're making your online posts, that you document those with quotations from the authors and the readings that we're working through, or from some of the lectures. Any insights that you have that are not any of the required readings or recommended readings that you think would be valuable to everyone who's learning from a different source, please feel free to post that. And but again, you can see what the expectations are for online participation there. I do try to, especially since we only have, I think we're going to have around 7 or 8 people in our course. So I'm going to do my best to respond to pretty much every posts that you have up there. If I'm ever having a really crazy week, I'm also teaching a transformational leadership course for BGU during this same term that has around 10 or 11 students in that. So, but then sometimes I'll group up the responses. So I might give a response to 2 or 3 of you at a time. But again, it's my goal to try to respond to at least to everything that you put up there by the end of the week. The due dates are kind of self-explanatory. The professor of record stuff and all the contact information, we won't need to go over that. Nor the instructional methodology. If you've taken BGU courses before, then you know you're going to get a lot of different perspectives. We're not set up for me just to talk at you for 9 weeks. This is all about introducing many different perspectives, including your own, that we can all learn from each other. But I will go over the desired learning outcomes, just so that we're all on the same page about those. At the conclusion of the course, you must demonstrate in your online discussions, book reviews, journal, and final project that you have a basic understanding of the following desired outcomes. You must understand the multidimensional complexities of poverty, diversity, and social justice, with special emphasis on these topics, particularly from a Judeo-Christian worldview. These topics will be explored theoretically and practically as they apply to today's global urban settings. And if hopefully what you'll notice from the flow of the course is BGU has scholar practitioners who are students and faculty, which means that we live in the world of theory, which is great. That's why we're reading books, and that's why we're studying different philosophies and models. But we also live in the real world of practical application. And as I read through your online posts and your journals and your final project, I'll be looking for that lens. So not just all up in the clouds theory for all of your work, but also real practical application to your context and what that means for the people that you're interacting with in your locations. So those bullet points there: understanding the origins of global poverty, define poverty, diversity, and justice, identify risk factors for communities, understand cultural worldviews, create a service delivery strategy that has a cultural credibility, develop a theological understanding of justice, analyze poverty relief service delivery models, and examine communities for their leadership perspectives. Again, at BGU, we assume that the Holy Spirit is already at work in your context, and that our job is to join that work and to learn about it and to help to facilitate transformation as best as we can as change agents in those areas. For each of you, it's a different vocation that you have and calling that you have. But hopefully those different bullet points that we just read through. The one that I would highlight is a theological understanding of justice. We'll be spending a lot of time on that and kind of interweaving that throughout the course. And that's an important thing for me that obviously I'm a pastor, so I like to emphasize that, but I think it's just so important to understand God's heart for reaching people in the margins of our countries and our cities, and for addressing a lot of these complex issues. So any questions about or comments about the desired learning outcomes or anything we've talked about in the syllabus so far? All right, we'll keep plugging away. Oh, go ahead, Margo.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Reading through the syllabus, it said that you do book reviews according to the amount of credits you're getting. So if it's 3 credits and it's 3 book reviews, or 6 credits, it's 6 book reviews.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was going to get to that in a little bit, but I'm going to answer your question right now because I'm sure everyone has the same question. So one of the things that happened was a shift that the academic cabinet at BGU made, which happened like almost a month or 2 ago. So it was a very recent change. The transition was that each course was required to have a minimum of 6 book reports that were submitted by the students, which is how I had been teaching up until this current term. And then that change was made by the academic cabinet to make it just like you described and just like it says in the syllabus. So there is 1 book report due for each of the credit hours that you're taking the course for. So there are some students who are taking it for 3 credits, some for 4, some for 6, and some are taking the class for 8 credits. And so if you're taking it for 3 credits, then in your final project at the end of the course, you would have your 3 book reports that you wrote for the course as a part of that chapter, which will be chapter 1 of your final document. If you're taking it for 4 credits, then you would have 4 book reports, 6 book reports for 6 credits. 8 credits would have 8 book reports. That's basically what that means. And then the book reports will be due during week 2, week 4, and week 6. So it'll be 1 book report due in week 2, 1 will be due in week 4, 1 will be due in week 6. So that means that you'll have a total of 3 of your book reports that are already done by the time you head into your final project. So once you get those book reports, I'll try to grade those and get them back to you within a week of when you submit them. But then you would just already have those 3 ready to go when you got to your final document part. So another cool thing that Martine, our academic dean, encouraged me to do, which I think I'm going to try for the first time, is the first book report that you submit, it's still due by the due date, but I'm going to give you feedback and get back to you about it without giving a letter or number grade for that first book report. And the main thing is to do that so that I can give everyone feedback, since we have so many different students around the world. Martine asked us as the academic dean if the professors would consider doing that. So that's going to be happening for the one that you submit in week number 2 as well. All right. So the 8 perspectives on for BGU on transformational leadership, I'm not going to read through all those. Hopefully you have had the opportunity to go through those in other Baki courses. If not, the main thing I wanted to emphasize is that I would love to see you cite each of those throughout the final document that you put in. So if you see an example of servant leadership or contextual leadership through your project or at any point in the readings in the course, if you could cite that, that would be great. The course expectations, reading through half of the books, I wrote in there in the book report section that if you could have read through When Helping Hurts in Half the Sky before the class started, that would be very helpful for you, because we'll be working through those books first in the first few weeks. So hopefully you've had a chance to read those. If not, do your best to get caught up on those 2 books this week. I know particularly Half the Sky, it's not the easiest book to get through if you've already read it, because there's so many intense stories in there of just it's actually just a really hard book to read, and I understand that. It's really heartbreaking in many ways, and also really hopeful in many ways. But I would encourage you, if you haven't gotten started on that one, to try to get that one read over the next few days and get it finished. And then, oh yeah, go ahead.
The book, I haven't gotten all of my books. I do the ones that I couldn't get online is the first one that's due. So
yeah, I would say, I mean, for situations like that, if we can probably switch the weekly dates that are due on those. So if you don't have the one if you haven't read the one where the book report is due for in the week 2 room, then we can just switch and you can do which one don't you have?
I don't have the book list in front of me, but the one that's due first, I don't have that yet.
Okay.
I think it's the one that comes with the binding.
Okay. Just let me know. So I'm okay with working that out with you, just to get a book report done for the first week. So
okay.
So yeah. I know it's hard because everybody's just getting, a lot of students are registering late, and I just had a student, like I was mentioning, we just had a student register for the course today. So he'll be playing catch up as well. So I'll work with you on that for sure.
Just an observation, Doctor.
Yeah.
Is there a specific order that you choose the books? Because in previous courses, one could have identified which book that course will start with, first or second. Am I hearing, based on the question that Margot just asked, that the books that you ought to use, they come in a particular order in terms of doing the book reviews? The book reviews that I listed in the syllabus in the book report section. So I wrote in there, I'll just read through it. Prior to the first day of class, the following books must be read: When Helping Hurts, which is the number 1 book review, and Half the Sky, which is the number 2 book review. During weeks 2 and 4, you will write a review of one of the books in the required reading list provided later in the syllabus. To obtain approval for reviewing books from recommended reading list or others, consult your professor of record. So the main point there, and kind of explicitly writing that out,
was that in the first book that we're going to work through for the assignment next week is going to be, it's actually going to be a case study that you're going to work from When Helping Hurts and Half the Sky. So not to confuse you too much, but I was hoping that the When Helping Hurts would be the first book report that you would do for next week. It'll be due next week in week 2. And that the second book report that would be due in week 4 would be Half the Sky. So my preference would be that those would be the order that you would submit your book reports. So When Helping Hurts in week number 2, and then Half the Sky, and then week number 4. And then in week 6, you could pick pretty much any of the other books on the required reading list to submit for your third one that's due in week 6.
All right.
Yeah.
Another observation for me, When Helping Hurts. I have done a book review on that already for the course in Fresno, the 8-credit course. The book reviews that we had to do there would have been 13. So I'm happy that they've had some kind of reduction, but it has come at a time when I've already done 13 book reviews for that course. But how do we treat with that kind of situation where a book review would have already been done? And that is one of the books that I would have used in out of the 13.
That's a really good question. I've never had that happen before. So I'm going to have to go shake Dr. White down for using my book in his class. But you know what? Instead of giving you an answer, let me get back to you on that. Let me check with Martine, the academic dean, to see. I would probably prefer that you read one of the books on the recommended list and then write that as your 6th one. But I don't know how helpful that would be for our course. So let me get back to you on that. And does anyone else have that issue? That you've already read that book? Okay, so Marcel, I'm making a note on that, and I'll let you know, okay? Sorry, just a second, making this note here. All right. These are good questions. So chances are, if you have a question that pops into your head as we're going through this, then let me know, and we can stop and go through that. So we talked about the pre-course work and the online participation. We talked about the book reports and the book reviews right now. And I think we have some clarity on that. If there's any of those questions moving forward, all I would add is just for the book reviews, please follow the instructions that are in the syllabus for all Bakke classes. So 100 words in the first paragraph, 300 or so in the middle, and then 100 words for the last paragraph there. The reflection journal, during weeks 1 through 7 of the online course, you'll keep a journal. Each week's entry will consist of 3 distinct parts: description, analysis, and application or integration. Write this journal to your PLC and to your professor. Write briefly. Do not insert your class notes into the journal entries. Use this as an opportunity to process what you've read, viewed, and discussed. This becomes chapter 2 of your document. Each week's entry will consist of 3 distinct parts: description, analysis, and the application / integration. Organize the material under the following 3 subheadings: description, analysis, application. And you can read what each of those are. Try to keep the number of pages per week to 2. If you add pictures, you may go to 3. So the main thing is help me out with that. Just remember, I'm reading through a lot of your journal entries when I'm grading. So it does really help me to see where you're heading if you actually write description, analysis, and application or integration in your journals. And then it does help me for some students who do try to just copy and paste their notes into the journal and just leave it like that. It's really hard for me to kind of track with your reflections for the course. So please do each week try to, at the end of the week, maybe even once you have to save yourself some time, you can get your final document going and just get that chapter 2 each week as you go. Just reflect on what you learned that week, and how was our Zoom room time together, and who did you meet, and what did you think about Ray Bakke's video aside from what you posted in the online discussion. All those things, I'm looking for those types of reflections. And it'll be a challenge for you if you wait till the very end. If anyone's taken a Bakke course before, then to try to sit down and crank out 7 weeks worth of reflections can be a challenge. So I would encourage you to stay proactive about that. Okay, the group project, I know you're going to have a lot of questions about that. The group project will be very similar to the other group projects that you may have taken for a Baki course if you've taken some before. And that means that your group project is going to involve your individual project that you learn, that you work on for this course. And it's going to be, how did you work on that with your group? What insights did you get from other group members? I already set up some groups, but I know that would change a little bit based off people who dropped the course or who added the course. And so I tried to set those up geographically, and I might make a couple little changes. But as we go through the class, there might be some times where I'll ask you to check in with the groups that I assigned you to work on some different things. And then your individual project, again, you're probably going to have a lot of questions about this, so I want to be really clear. I'm going to have specific instructions for you as we go through the course about how to do your group project and get a good grade on it, and how to do your individual project and get a good grade on it. The projects will involve some of the material that we're going to introduce. So one of those things would be, one of the tools that you might use that we learn about in the course is how to do an asset map of your community or of your city. And so if you've taken the ABCD course at BGU, you may have already done that, so you might choose a different tool. But let's say that you haven't done an asset map of your city for the first time. You might choose that one, and you might implement that in your city as your individual project as a part of implementing what you're learning in the course. And then your group would give you feedback on selecting that tool, any insight that they have on what they learned about asset mapping, and then kind of walking through that journey with you. And then you can put together at the end, in weeks 8 and weeks 9, we're going to have group presentations where you're going to have 5 to 10 minutes to share about the tool that you selected for poverty alleviation or asset mapping or any of the tools that we introduce in those last group presentation forms. And then that will kind of drive a part of your final project and the final document that you submit. So just like everything else at BGU, we want your group project and your final project to be run through the context of your specific area that you are and where you choose to lead. So all that to say, I feel like it's a little bit vague for you right now, and it's going to get very clear for you over the next few weeks as we go through the course. So does that make sense though? So for now, just get to know your groups, and we have those little groups sessions, chat areas where you can get to know each other and exchange information, Skype with each other, email each other, and kind of get going there. And then the individual project, after completing the group project, prepare your individual project, which will be chapter 3 of your final paper. Ideas will be suggested in class and must receive prior approval from the professor of record. The course project will be directly related to business or ministry in the course content. The project should also include the analysis and discussion of relevant ethical, theological, and contextual issues. So again, that seems pretty vague, but you'll know over the next few weeks, especially when we get towards week 6, towards the end of the main content of the course, and you start working on your group projects, you'll know exactly, you'll work that through with your group about which tool you want to select to do your project that will apply best to your local area there. The important note I want to read is you will also be graded on whether or not you included at least one quote from each of the required texts in your individual project and demonstrated that you accessed and utilized BGU's online library and Populi. The online library is amazing. If you haven't had the chance to check in with Jennifer Roman yet, she's amazing, and she'll get you connected with all these great resources that are in the library. I actually have not assigned any assignments from the library in previous courses, but I'm going to be doing that, at least one assignment from the library as we go through this learning journey together. So I want to encourage you to utilize it and to incorporate that into your final paper, the different articles. So for instance, if you're interested in community transformation in the Bahamas, Margot, you might want to, as we go through the course, and then you sit down to write your final project, do a quick search in BGU's online library. I know I've had several students from the Bahamas who have taken my course before and who may have written dissertations at BGU. So you might do a quick search for any articles or dissertations or final projects that they did, and then maybe incorporate some of their perspectives through quotes into your final project. That would be an example of how you could use the library for something like that. So, all right. And then the self-evaluation, that's a basic thing, pretty self-explanatory. It won't be chapter 5, it's actually chapter 4. So sorry for that typo there. The submission of the final document, every project must be submitted using the BGA approved paper template in APA format. Now, some of you, if you've been in the program for a while, may have started in Turabian and you're continuing on using Turabian. I'm okay with that if that's what you've been using and what you're planning to finish up with. That's how I did my BGU studies, and I'm familiar with it. APA, if you're starting out brand new or if you've been a recent student at BGU, they're encouraging everyone to use APA. I'm getting to know APA pretty well now over the past few years, and so I'll do my best to get to know APA, but that's what the preference is for right now for you to use. So just pointing that out. But the main thing is to use the template. If you don't use the template, then the paper will get sent back to you, and you'll be really discouraged. So make sure you use the paper template. It says the total pages of 40 to 50 there. Again, that might vary a little bit depending on how many credits you're taking the class for. The main thing is I don't want you to drop like a 200-page bomb on me at the end of the course here with all your musings about poverty and social justice. Try to stay, if you can, within the parameters of the recommended pages. And all the other things, the title page, table of context, book reviews, all that. And then sometimes students forget to fill in the amount of pages that they read. So make sure in the template that you fill that out, that you certify that you read all the books. And also, I'll know that you read all the books. I'm hoping you use lots of quotes from the authors in your final document. So the main thing to be thinking as you sit down to write your final document for me is you're all very smart. You can say very intelligent things, but could you say that smart, intelligent thing using the words of one of the authors that you read in the course, and then citing it and putting that in your bibliography? So that'll help to train you with academic writing. And then when you do if you do publish your work or other students access your work, that gives it more academic credibility. So I do want to hear your voice. I want to hear your opinions and what you have to say, but I also want to see you back up with the authors in our course or authors from the library, what the main points are that you're trying to make. And then with all that being said, the project's due on the 25th. Write the paper to your PLC, but also write it to me. If you're having a hard time getting the project done, and sometimes it's a real big challenge for people to get to that point, I don't want you to feel helpless and like you're lost and confused. Many times when I was going through BGU's program, I was banging my head against my desk and frustrated and not knowing how to format things properly. So please use the help references that they listed there in the syllabus. Reach out to BGU if you would like some support. Use Grammarly. One of my, I don't want to say it's a pet peeve, but it sometimes makes me scratch my head when someone submits a final project to me that has all kinds of spelling errors in it and grammar errors in it, because it's really easy to run your document through a spell check and a grammar check, So just do that. It takes 5 minutes to do right before you send it to me, and that'll save you losing points on your grade. But also there's some great resources there with EndNote and other ways to make writing easier for you. So do you have any questions about anything that I've said so far? I want to pause here and give you that chance.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I was reading the syllabus and you mentioned it as well. It talks about the template for the project. Where do we actually access that template? Or are you just saying it's listed here?
Yes.
There
is a paper template that BGU uses that you should have hopefully gotten in your orientation packet. If you did not, I can upload it to the info section of our course, and then you can access it there.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Any other questions? That's good. Oh, it looks like we have Barry and who else? Sarah, are you on the call?
Yeah, I just tuned in. Sorry I'm late, but I'm in California, so
it was a little bit of an early start for you, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've really got a doctor's appointment at 8:30, so I'm sitting out in the parking lot. I'm sorry, but is this the project class, the project for methodologies, the project design?
So no, this is for poverty, diversity, and social justice, or the PDS course. Is that the course you were trying to get into, Barry, or is that a different one?
Yeah, that was the one. I think Judy misread my email because it was project design methodology.
Okay. Well, how about we follow up then? I'll follow up with an email to Judy that you're trying to get into the project design and methodology course, and you'll miss out on all these wonderful people that are in this course. But
yeah, I just got the last little tidbit there. It was great to see different people. Yeah, I mean, eventually maybe something will come up like that when I can take a course like this one's being offered.
That's no problem, Barry. I'll go ahead and let Judy know. So
okay.
Thanks for letting me know about that.
All right. Now Zoom, can you see me both ways? Can the rest of the class see?
We can hear you, but we can't see you right now.
Oh, I see. Because I got to see one of the other students. So.
If you have a video button, you can press it there, and then we'll be able to see you.
Not sure what I have that's live here.
It would be on the bottom screen. So if you go all the way to the bottom.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, good to see you.
I'm a human being after all, not just a voice in the wilderness.
Well, again, sorry it didn't work out, Barry, but we'll keep pressing away here, and we'll get it squared away with Judy to get you in the right course.
All right. Thanks a million. Nice to talk to you. Nice meeting you. And bless all of you guys working.
Thanks, Barry. Sarah, are you on?
Yeah, hi, I'm Sarah.
Hey, Sarah, can you, this is Brian McCabe, the professor of record for the course. Can you go ahead and introduce yourself to everyone in the Zoom room and just share a little about yourself?
Sure. My name is Sarah Carter. I'm an executive director of a nonprofit in San Diego, and I was an MBA candidate a long time ago, and I had a computer problem issue that I never was able to submit my final project for this course. So I'm auditing this course to be able to submit my final project.
Oh, cool. So are you going to be on the Zoom rooms and things like that, or are you just mostly tracking online with
Well, I don't know. I sent you an email this morning, actually, just finding out what you prefer as the audit process, because I've never audited a BGU class before. So I did the last course. I did everything except submit my final project. So we could maybe discuss it, but I just wanted to jump on here and introduce myself and connect that way. But I also have 2 kids, little kids, and so they might be running in and out of here. My husband had to work today unexpectedly, so that's also my life too. So.
No problem. I've been through that before. Great that. How old are your kids? What are their names?
2 and 4, Jackson and Cole. They're 2 boys.
Awesome. Okay. Well, we also have Summer going through the course, who's from San Diego. So hopefully the 2 of you may know each other, or maybe you can connect it at some point. And again, thanks for joining at this time. I know it's early there on the West Coast for you. And we also have students all over the world. We have Na Tong, who's all the way from Myanmar. That's 11 and a half hours ahead of me with time zone. So it's late at night for him. But glad that you're able to join us for this time. So what we were basically doing was just going through the course syllabus, and we're almost actually all the way through it. And so I'm recording the conversation. If you want to, I'll post it up in Populi if you want to go back through and kind of check out. And then with the audit stuff, you and I can get an email dialogue going, or we can set up a time for a phone call to talk about that, maybe with Judy, to see what the expectations are. So, but I'm glad you're able to join us for a little while. So we have Marcel, Margot, Na Tong, and Summer who are on with us as well. So it looks like Barry won't be joining us, unfortunately, but we'll still have a nice group as we go through the time here. So I was about to jump into the grading section of the syllabus, and a lot of that is pretty self-explanatory in terms of the percentages of the grades there. One thing that I do want to know is that for accreditation purposes, one of the other things that BGU approved within the last month or two at the last cabinet meeting was a couple different things. Number one is they are going to be taking attendance. They want us to give an attendance grade. So that'll be a part of your online discussion grade through different participations that you have each week and attending the Zoom rooms. If you're not ever able to make a Zoom room, please just let me know. And then you can listen to the recording, send me some reflections that you have from the recording, and then I'd be willing to set up some time with you one-on-one, either in the Zoom room or via Skype, to go over any of the content that you may have missed. But I'm encouraging everyone to please try to make every one of the scheduled Zoom rooms. And then also rubrics. So Martine, our academic dean at BGU, she has encouraged me to, not just me, but all the BGU professors to use suggested grading rubrics that the cabinet approved. And so I'll be doing that throughout the course. All of those rubrics are posted in the info section of our course in Populi. So you can just check out. And again, that doesn't really change the learning and teaching that happens in the course, but it's supposed to be a good thing for you so that you can understand the expectations when you get feedback from the professor of record, that it's kind of consistent across the board at BGU. So you can access all those documents on the on the info page. And then you can see all the different grade scale and things like that. I've never had anyone get a C+ or a D or an F in the course, because everyone at BGU is amazing and you're all brilliant. And but every once in a while, a student life will catch up with them and they're not able to complete the material on time. And so I know how that goes. And so sometimes there's an incomplete or something like that, and then you'll have to work with me to get that work done. But hopefully everybody will persevere and do well with everything that we have for the content for the course. For the grading criteria, I just want to read through those. Again, I know this is kind of tedious, and our first Zoom room is not the most exciting one, but I want to make sure that we go over everything. I'll be looking for theological reflection, critical thinking. That's a huge one that I've been talking about pretty consistently throughout this Zoom room. Is I want you to try to think, when you're making a comment to your classmate, how could I take this comment a layer deeper? How could I think through this a little bit more? How could I introduce a perspective from the books we read? Different things like that. So when we start off, it's, hey, nice to meet you. Great post. I totally agree. And then as we go through, try to think through a little bit how your perspective might be a little bit different and help the other person to be able to learn some. Contextual application. Everything we learn in theory at BGU, we apply right back to your context. So I want to hear all about your people, their names, if you like, their organizations, the names of the neighborhoods. I love to learn about your cities and your context, and to hear all about the people that God has called you to. So please feel free to put that into your work. Form, like technical quality, we talked about that. That shouldn't be an issue if you're using Grammarly and all the tools that BGU has available. Understood the origins of global poverty, defined poverty, diversity, and justice, identified risk factors for communities, understood cultural worldviews, created service delivery strategies that have cultural credibility, developed a theological understanding of justice, analyzed poverty relief service delivery models, and examined communities for their leadership perspectives. So all those things, when you're sitting down to write your project at the end, just give that a glance, and as you're putting your paper together, be thinking through are all those components in there. You may only demonstrate an understanding of one or two of the desired learning outcomes in individual assignments. Your professor will grade you on whether you have demonstrated an understanding of all the desired learning outcomes in the final project. So don't feel like you have to do all of those perspectives if you're just making one online post for somebody to respond to them. Obviously, we wouldn't ask you to do that, but kind of collectively together, that's the main categories we'll be looking for. Any question about the grading or how to access the rubrics? All right. Then the required reading list, we're almost done in the home stretch here. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I don't understand the rubrics. I've never even heard that.
Yeah, so this is the first time that BGU's using them. It doesn't really change anything. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say it's the first time that they're using them. it's the first time that consistently across the board for all Bakke professors, they're encouraging us to use to kind of use these standardized grading rubrics. So if you take a look at them in the information section and just read through them, the main thing I just want you to look for is each of them has a category of like what we're expecting, and then, you know, different levels of like if there's something missing. So it's more of a tool for you as you're writing each of the assignments, just to be looking for what exactly their professor is expecting when I sit down to grade anything that you submit, versus you getting like a really subjective document back from me that just has a bunch of my comments, but you don't really know why or how I'm saying those things. So, gotcha? All right. The required readings, we talked a little bit about those. Try to read When Helping Hurts and Half the Sky first. When Helping Hurts will be your week 2 book report. Half the Sky will be your week 4 book report. And again, as we discussed earlier, if that's going to be a problem because you haven't received either of those books yet, please let me know. And check with our librarian at BGU to see if any of those books are available in PDF form for you to be able to go through. I have 2 new books on the required reading syllabus that is different from the last few years that I've taught it. The first one is Brenda Salter McNeil and Rick Richardson's book on the heart of racial justice. As I updated the syllabus, I just updated the whole thing for this year, and I've been wanting to teach out of that book for a long time. So I hope that will be a really great resource for us. It really, you know, with race interactions and class interactions, everybody talks about the iceberg, where you kind of have the tip of the iceberg where there's all these superficial conversations happening, and then underneath the water is 90% of what the work that really needs to be done. And I really felt like that book kind of gets at the heart of that, at the rest of the iceberg for relating across cultures and racial justice. And then the other book that for the first time is probably one of my favorite books of all time, which is Geography of Grace by Chris Rock and Joel Van Dyke. So we'll be working through a lot of that as well. But all the books have different perspectives and are hopefully really interesting for you. Again, just to state out front, Pedagogy of the Oppressed is it's a really what's the right word I should use for it? It's just a book that a lot of people either love or hate. So some of you are going to read it and you're going to be like, this is the most deeply profound thing ever. I'm reading everything word for word. And some of you are going to be like, I hate this and I never want to read another book again. Why did he write that book? So everything, and probably everything in between. So, but it does, even though it is kind of intense, try to plow through it and get to the heart of what he's trying to say. It'll open up some great discussions that week as well. And then on the recommended reading list, I'm not going to go through each of those books, but I just wanted to encourage you. Some of you are working towards your dissertation or your final project for your master's program, and you're going to be looking for some more resources, and you may be looking for something in this course might catch fire for you, and you might want to be looking for some more resources. So I actually worked pretty hard to revamp the recommended reading list and to get some great, more recent resources out for you. And they're on a whole bunch of different topics and different contexts from around the world. Pretty much every continent is represented there. For instance, Jayakumar Christian, God of the Empty-Handed, is speaking out of India. Ash Barker is from Australia, and he's currently in Birmingham, England. His book, Risky Compassion, is from his work in Thailand. On the next page of the syllabus, Graham Hill wrote a great book that he put out in 2017 called Global Church, Reshaping Our Conversations, Renewing Our Mission. That is a years-long project that he did to gather tremendous perspectives from people from around the world and theological perspectives. It's one of the best books that I read in 2017, and I wanted to make sure it was, I recommended it to you. Tim Keller's book on Center Church, his Gospel Ecosystem book, he has a section in there on the gospel ecosystem in New York City that's really pretty fascinating. I'll be talking about that in one of my lectures later in the course. A lot of books in there on reconciliation, like The Wolf Shall Dwell with the Lamb, A Spirituality for Leadership in a Multicultural Community. Lots of great men and women perspectives. On the next page, Mac Peer, A Disruptive Gospel, that came out in 2016. It's a great kind of more global perspective on city transformation. based on some of his research. And then also I even got Australia in there, Africa from Desmond Tutu, Australia, Andre Van Ameren, Building Communities of the Kingdom. Andre's one of my best friends based out of Melbourne, Australia, who wrote that book. It came out in 2016. It's got some great insights. So again, didn't want to bore you too much with the recommended reading books, but just wanted to encourage you, if there's something that you're really passionate about, there's some good resources there that you could utilize. Any questions about the required reading books and the recommended reading books? All right. Then the last part there is just the academic policies. We have the due date for the final submission. We talked about the APA format, and I would just encourage you, if that's not your strength, I can stand up in front of a congregation and preach sermons all day. I can write and tell stories all day, but when it comes to formatting things in technical academic language, it's a chore for me. It's a lot of work. And so I have to use resources all the time to make sure that things are formatted correctly. If that's you and you have a hard time with it, please use those resources that BGU has for APA format or Turabian if you're using it. You don't have to die on the vine trying to do that. And you might want to, if you have a friend that's really good that loves that. So one of our editors for the New Urban World Journal and for our books that we publish through the Urban Shalom Society is a person who loves to do the tedious work of academic editing. And they could do that all day. It's like their favorite thing. So maybe you have some friends like that you could send your work to help you format it correctly before you submit it. But I just wanted to encourage you that those resources are out there. And the academic standards, I just wanted to read through that for us as well, just so everybody's on the same page. Gender inclusive language. Each faculty member is committed to the use of gender inclusive language in accordance with the BGU faculty policy. You're strongly encouraged to use inclusive language in your writing and speech. I would just add to that, if I ever say or write or do anything that's offensive or that is insensitive, I hope that you'll let me know. Either you can do it publicly with the group or privately with an email. I'm going to do my best, though, to try to hold the same standard that I'm asking you to do. Student integrity. You will do your own work to the best of your ability exclusively for the assignment for which is being presented, i.e. you may not turn in a project from another course and expect to receive credit in the current course for it. So that's why, about your question about the book report, when helping Hertz earlier, Marcel, I need to get back to you on that one. But I will say, if we do, as you go through these BGU programs, we want you to build on the things that you've learned in the other courses. And some of you might be taking, as Marcella is, taking 2 courses at the same time. So even though we wouldn't want you to use the same exact words from one paper to the next that you submitted, it's okay to incorporate perspectives of other things that you've learned at BGU into what you wrote. It's just not a copy and paste type situation. You are expected and required to be the sole author of the answers to your class papers unless your professor grants special prior permission, as, for example, if you require special translation to English. And then plagiarism. Obviously, BGU acknowledges the principles of academic integrity. Consequently, all forms of dishonesty, including plagiarism, or cheating in any form are wrong, non-productive, and contrary to BGU's educational objectives in the student's best interest. Anyone caught submitting work contrary to this policy will be appropriately disciplined. So, I mean, what's interesting about that is, like, again, you're all really brilliant people and great leaders, so there's no need to do it. And I know that you wouldn't have never had any problems with anyone doing that. That being said, there are so many, different things that happen. You never know. So I just wanted to make sure I read through that with you. Academic expectations. It's your professor's expectation that you'll interact with the books you've read, the lectures, comments, your personal experiences in the Bible. Do not use Wikipedia or similar references, as they are unreliable. It is also expected that you have properly researched your paper and will make liberal use of footnotes and references. If you have any questions in this regard, you may email your professor for clarification. During the course, if you have any questions related to your coursework, please be sure to ask either during class or individually with your professor. So I really mean that. I'm willing to meet with you. I can do phone calls if that works for you. I can do Skype or FaceTime or set up Zoom rooms to interact with you. Email works well too. I've been using the Brian M at northway.org email, but I also recently found out that I had a BGU email, and I have that set up as well. It's brian.mccabe@bgu.edu. So I'll be responding to emails there as well. But any questions that you have, or if you're falling behind, just let me know and I'll work with you and we can connect. And again, just that reminder there, I know you can say it yourself, but if you can say what you want to say with a quotation from one of the authors from our course, then that's going to be good in your final project there. All right, that was a lot to get through, but hopefully everybody feels empowered and you feel like you know what's expected of you over the next 9 weeks. And that was my hope and my intent for today. Are there any questions that, I know I'm asking that a lot, but just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. Any questions about anything on the syllabus or what we have moving forward? All right. I'm getting nods from everybody. Everybody's ready to get through their day. And again, since we have a smaller number, I've had classes that have had 15 to 20 students in them, but I actually prefer these ones that have around 6 to 8 people. So really excited, but that also means that we'll probably get through our Zoom rooms a little bit quicker since we're only having a smaller number of perspectives and sharing. So I'll be in the online discussion, looking at your responses, and hopefully you have a chance to watch that Baki video. And but otherwise, I think we're going to be good to go. So I'll let everybody get along with your day here. I'm going to close us in prayer, though. God, we lift up this time to you. I thank you for every person that joined us. And for those who were not able to join us, God, that you might guide us and lead us through this journey together. Help us to bond, to learn, to grow, to be supportive of each other. And most importantly, to learn more about you and your heart for the people who are living on the margins of our world in so many different places. God, work through the leaders in this group to transform cities, to change places forever through the gospel of Jesus Christ and how you empower us to lead. And God, I pray that you would just guide every part of this course. And we do thank you for the time that we spent together today. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, everybody. Have a great rest of your week.
Thank you. God bless everyone.
Thank you, sir. God bless.
God bless.